and I get.
All right, welcome everyone to a budget discussion of the Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County. We're here tonight to hear from commissioners as they evolve the budget. We have 3 taxpayer bill of rights hearings that the public should know about. We'll have a taxpayer bill of rights hearing on the 3rd, that's Tuesday, June 3rd. And that will be at 6 p.m., just ahead of our monthly voting meeting. We'll have a taxpayer bill of rights hearing Thursday, the 5th. And then we'll have our final taxpayer bill of rights hearing on June 10th, which is the date that we have set up on the schedule for the budget to be approved. And of course, that budget will take effect July 1st. Of course, there's been a lot of work that's led us to this point, really well ahead of the first of the year. Department heads are putting department level budgets together, submitting those to the manager. The manager is packaging those in a recommendation to myself, the mayor, and then I make some modifications and then hand it to the commission. So that's the point we are at now. And Commissioner Myers, kind of in the tradition of commissions for many years, has put together a budget proposal that she has a copy of for members of the body. And so I'm going to turn it to Commissioner Myers to go over her budget proposal, and then folks can ask questions of staff or of Commissioner Myers. So, Commissioner, good to see you.
Glad to be here, fellow commissioners as well. This actually, I just want to make it clear to all my colleagues here too, that I put this together as a working draft of a CDO. So this is not a finished product. And really what I was trying to do was to capture a lot of the asks that came from the different departments that have come before us in the last couple of weeks, and some things that the commissioners have highlighted. So I'm just going to go over this. Does anyone else need a copy of it?
I need one.
Here.
I got it. Oh.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over this, and we also have some, we have the questions and answers that the manager's office have been getting us. And I have to thank you guys, because I see that you've actually included the questions that we were asking during the meetings. Some of the people who came and spoke with us. So I appreciate that. And I had some questions in there as well. But I'm just going to go through this. And some of this is some news that we also have from the finance office and through the manager's office. In terms of revenues, there's now a $1.5 million addition to the tax digest growth. So the added revenues are there. I have added, and this was, remember, a working draft, a 0.1 millage rate change for $760,000. And that would be in here on my spreadsheet that I shared. This would be specifically so that we can add some money to the Affordable Housing Fund. In addition, there is adjustments to sales tax revenue, which is down $600,000, an adjustment to the intergovernmental revenue, which is up $300,000, and an adjusted fees of fund balance for another $656,000. So that when we get to, I'm going to go through the addition in here as well. But the goal here right now was that the fund to the net general fund budget change was 0 based on when we get down to the bottom here. So if I can read this, this is very small. So let me just make sure I have another piece of paper to line this up. I'm just going to go through the items that were added. $37,300 for the library, $5,300 for the public defender, the food bank for $50,000. Tax commissioners, and that was the food bank was a request from commissioners as well. The tax commissioner's office, $15,000. That would be help to combine 2 positions into one full time. The firefighters union, collective bargaining agreement request for mattresses and computers for $40,000. The addition of 300 for the real-time crisis center of $339,329, and that's in there. There is money for the sheriff's office equity adjustment salary of $615,000. And to be equitable about that, we also have included $400,000 to do the same thing for the officers in corrections and probation as well. And that number would need to be clarified. There's $250,000 for courthouse security and repairs, $20,000 for the Superior Court probation electronic monitoring, $97,000 for the Superior Court reporters, and $5,000 for the part-time bailiff's wages increase at the state court. The state court, $41,000 for the court reporters, $7,200 for office expenses for the state court. Juvenile court, a contract attorney for $107,600. A juvenile court senior attorney for $1,118,300. District attorney, 2 investigators for $160,000. The Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful, another $8,000, which would round up their total input. That was a request from commissioners, and a transfer to the Affordable Housing Fund of $1 million. So that's what I've included in here. Oh, as well as down below with the CPA downtown funds, an additional $150,000. Available funding is only at 93. Obviously, I'll have to discuss that and make adjustments, but to add a little bit for the downtown events fund as well. And so that's sort of everything down here. What is this? This was the fee schedule correction to insurance. That's 150. This is the updated spreadsheet that we've gotten from staff. So some of these things are things that I'm just seeing here. This, I'm sure, is just a small adjustment of $150 there. So that's what I'm presenting as a working draft to my colleagues to work forward from here. And I just, I guess at this point, do we have any points of clarity, discussion? Commissioner
There's a
Davenport?
lot of us here, so.
Yeah,
The tax, excuse me, the tax digest growth. Is it, I received an email that was 1.2. Is that correct? Or is it 1.5?
I think the 1.2 was the combination of, there was an amount and then one that was reduced and another one that's increased. I think if you do the 1.5, reduce the 600 adjustment sales tax and then increase the adjustment to intergovernmental revenue, that's where you get your 1.2.
oh, okay, but because it puts it in as a tax, it puts in the raw numbers. So it actually comes out to,
Total is 1.2.
yeah, I understand that now, but that.
Okay. There was some mass myth in right there, okay. Can you go over that one more time?
Yes. And that's up in the top section. And David, if I'm wrong, just correct me, please, sir, or Chris, but the digest growth was 1.5 million. The adjustment in the sales tax revenue was a reduction of 600,000. So that reduces your total to 900,000. And then there was an adjustment to the intergovernmental revenue of 300,000 that takes you back up to the 1.2.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so that's what I got a little confused about here, but, because on the original spreadsheet that I shared, I had the 1.2 and they've just broken it down so we can see exactly where that's coming from.
Okay, and the adjusted use of fund balance on your budget is still asking for about 650,000.
Right, that, I mean, and what I was looking at were these expenses, that we had and, trying to get it to the reason why it's an odd number, so that it would end up with the 0. It may have to change.
So the adjusted use of fund balance total is 4.3.
This is adjusted in addition,
For capital and operating together.
yeah,
Okay, I do not want to use fund balance. We're at that point. We're. Keep it high.
Actually, I'd like to ask them to go over this again with us because we are still above. Last year, we used a lot of fund balance and I was trying to get my computer up here. We used a lot of fund balance because we had so much over the 2 months. And Could you review again? I know that was when the questions and answers on that, where we are with that fund balance. I mean, we had an extraordinarily high fund balance last year, historically speaking, for this county. So
There was one of those questions, I think, that responded to it, but
yeah, I'm trying to find it on the,
It's on page 14.
Question?
So if I'm reading this correctly, the FY 26 mayor recommended budget proposes to use $3.7 million of fund balance, which leaves approximately 4.1 million estimated over the 2-month reserve.
So I'll throw this out there
mhm.
for my constituents, you know, yell and throw darts at me. If you increase that mill rate to 0.6, that will cover any.
0.6?
Well, 0.5, I'm sorry. 0.5, hear me out, it will cover any use of that fund balance.
Well, actually, I think it's just, I mean, it would be, I only used 600 in this budget,
You use 760.
right, which is about 0.1. You'd only have to raise it, the millage rate instead of raising it 0.1, you could raise it 0.2.
I'm just thinking,
Right.
so, well, if the mayor is requesting, budget is requesting 3.7 million of the fund balance, right? And then you're requesting an additional 656.
That's about 4.3 million total.
For a point, an additional. Don't throw darts, I'm just talking.
Oh, no, yeah.
Um,
It's a little bit more than, I mean, I put.
So 0.5 mil, 0.1 will cover any use of.
Less than, I mean, if you look up above in the top line there, Commissioner Davenport, where I put 0.1, that was 760.
Mhm.
Okay, 1,000. And so the movement from the fund balance was less than that. So you could, in your, no one's throwing any darts now, but if you move this up to 0.2,
That'd be 1.3 million.
right, and you could take away, you could reduce the money and not take any more money from it. So that's correct math.
Can y'all, because I'm still confused.
So you wanted to eliminate entire use of fund balance
Yes.
to the tune of the $4.3 million.
Oh, okay.
So that's just more than $500,000.
Okay,
Oh, you mean,
So
and
maybe
get
about
rid of
0.6
the, what
mils.
yeah.
the mayor used as well, yes.
That'd be an increase in the millage rate of about 0.6.
Was asking.
Yeah.
Just asking. Don't throw darts at me. Just, welcome Commissioner Link. We just started, so we got a lot of comments from people in the public for a resolution. You know, resolution that we passed. And, we're giving a lot to the courts, which is great. I completely support that. For workforce and housing. I would like to see more for community benefits when it comes to after-school programs and workforce and, more to the affordable housing fund. Is there any other additional cuts that you think that we can have?
You want me personally speaking
Yeah.
in this big group of four? Now, I'm going to say that I think we just received an email from Ilka in Economic Development that I haven't time to look at it because we put that money, Ilka could remind me how much money that was in the ARPA for workforce. That really isn't being spent until this year and next year. And then I just ran into David Bradley from the chamber who was wanting to reach out and give an update on that as well with the workforce. So they have, that's basically for, it's for regular year 2025 and through till January 26. So we have a lot of different activities being worked on in those areas. And we might, I personally would think we might just need to do a better job of laying them out to the public and seeing where they go, what needs to be I'd like to see how they work for a year before we decide where to put more funds in those areas. That's my gut feeling on that.
Commissioner, just to sort of emphasize that point, conceptually, what we did is we forward funded those kind of activities with ARPA dollars through the end of calendar year 2026, which will be first half of fiscal year 2027. We put a lot of money into youth activities. We put a lot of money into workforce development, put a very significant amount of money into affordable housing. $14 million went into affordable housing from ARPA, and those dollars are going to continue to roll out in the months ahead. So certainly understand the desire of the public to find sustainability past December 2026. But if you look holistically at all the dollars that we're deploying beyond just those that rest in the current single fiscal year budget, we're doing a lot in those areas.
And I would add on to that, I wanted to, and I know Commissioner Link mentioned this when I mentioned affordable housing. The cost of affordable housing is so much more than the running of programs. I mean, to get any, housing just in general. So, it'd be very hard to get 3 moderate homes on the east side or anywhere in this county for $1 million. So the amount of money, if we're really going to address affordable housing, and to me, this is somewhat insignificant, but it shows a commitment to keep going with that. We had a lot of money from ARPA for affordable housing, but we knew that was ARPA money. We have that, affordable housing investment plan. The money may come from somewhere else, but it's going to need to come from, we need to make that commitment. That's where I'm at. We need to be showing the public we're making that commitment.
Yes. 2 more questions. The 164 district attorney were previously grant funded, correct? No, where did I get that wrong?
It was attorney positions. I think that were the grant funded ones rather than the investigators. Am I remembering that correctly?
So, Mr. Alderman Chili stated that there was a grant that was not applied for. He needs funding for those, so it has to come out of so I don't have my book in front of me, I'm sorry. Like I told people earlier today, I clocked out. I'm ready. It's a 4-day weekend. Lord forgive me, I'm sorry. But staff, So I'm looking at recurring budgets, because if this is just a temporary until those grant funding are reapplied for and hopefully we get, it won't be 160,000 for those 2 positions, correct? Or this will be permanent.
Now, I will say that I had some money for the district attorneys, the DAs. I consulted with the mayor. He probably consulted with other mayors and said that the investigators. I personally am open to checking in with the district attorney.
Okay,
On which is more crucial.
okay.
I
And
mean, someone else might have a different point of view here to share.
40,000 dollars for mattresses.
Well, and computers, that was 25,000. So that was what the collective bargaining agreement brought to us, that we are voting on
Yes.
as well.
So I don't know much about the collective bargaining, but I can go to Best Buy and get computers for like $120. And there's a store off of Maleta Highway, they got mattresses for $50. So why 40,000?
Nikki, can you speak a little bit to how that number came about?
I think that's the current cost of the mattresses that they have purchased traditionally. So they're maintaining consistency and buying the same mattress for everybody.
So
And it's
this
like
was-
$450, I think, a mattress.
Is this a replacement of all the mattresses?
No, they've already started to replace
Yeah.
some of the mattresses, but this is the remainder of mattresses, the cost for the remainder.
And I'm following up on you and asking here in this very formal conversation we're having here. I would assume with the mattresses and with the computers that we have a process internally. I mean, we're not just going down and buying them, and they can't just, whether or not they buy the $200 computer or the 10,000, that's not really a choice. Am I correct in
correct?
that? I mean, we have to go through whatever the process is, who can.
So there is a IT approval process to add new technology into the system, and similarly, this lovely government computer we have here might differ a bit from the $200 one in the fact that it's, let's say IT approved and not prone to have spyware or other security risks. So the last time I purchased a computer through our state contract, it was IT supported. They tend to range between $800 and $1,000.
In the answers to your questions, there is a spreadsheet provided to us by the fire department, wherein they outline their usual replacement schedule. And you can see kind of the per mattress cost. Yeah, it's $449 and then 3% annually for inflation. And they kind of give you the rundown of when mattresses normally would be replaced, how they would accelerate their schedule.
Yes.
But we're replacing all of them during this scheduled cycle.
So what they're saying is that the revised plan for mattress replacement would begin the first quarter of FY 26 with the replacement of all mattresses that are over 8 years old. So they're looking to make sure that they kind of take care of those. It's a total of 49 mattresses. So that's part of their number. From that point, the department would transition to a 7-year replacement cycle for mattresses. And they do have some existing capital funds for that.
Not saying our firefighters don't need that. No, that's good. That's good. 49 mattresses.
Charlene, did you have any observations?
Yeah, after my conversation with the food bank this morning, and I'd love to see us be able to find more for them. They're straits in the community with federal funds being slashed. I'm very worried about the homeless coalition. They've not asked us for anything, but I fear that our homelessness problem is gonna get much, much worse with those budgets, those providers' budgets getting slashed and federal funds not being available to them anymore. I don't know that we're fitting any of those concerns in here or we'll be getting any mid-year asks. I do want to point out that if we move forward with this intergovernmental agreement and the redevelopment plan on downtown, we could see $7 or $8 million infused into our affordable housing funds through the payment in lieu and the inclusionary zoning process. I would love to see a regular commitment of general funds going into that. But I also recognize other needs, like, maybe get some more to the food bank out of that, but we haven't agreed on that IGA yet. I kind of want to see how that pans out.
So this, you see there's 50,000.
Yeah, I see 50,000.
That was their minimum ask.
No, it's 25.
That's 25.
It's 25.
Okay, I thought 100 was their, I'd
Yeah.
love to get them
Yeah.
100 because they lost a lot.
Would you be interested in adjusting CPP? Is that possible? Because we voted on that in
Community.
April.
Oh.
Not a problem.
Well, that would be this.
I feel like we voted on that. I don't want to dip into that.
Okay.
I'm gonna respond because we're not talking about, this is the, what are we calling this project? Core project. We have to put together a budget and vote on it on June 10th. Okay. I really do not know much about this project. I have not been involved with it. I don't know what other avenues there are for doing anything. I don't know how that fits with our north downtown development plan that I participated in a lot as a citizen. I don't.
And all of that rests independently.
But that's what I mean. That's independent of that. So I don't want to get into a discussion of that here. And so, that's not something I'm ready to say, hey, we're gonna put that money in there because that's a done deal. Because for me, it's not a done deal.
If we vote on that potentially on June 30, more than likely, maybe commissioner may kick that down the road. So, and we vote on the budget on June 10th. So there's still time You know, so we will know what happens with that project.
Well, we will.
But again, I'd just focus on the general fund.
Yeah, let's just
Wouldn't
focus
even
on that.
think about
And
this.
yes, because you don't even know when that's going to, like, there's a lot of there that we don't know about, that I don't know about it. So,
So my main concern is just, I was a long way till you get a week off or whatever, just to not dip into any of the reserve fund balance. And I have some cuts, but I'm not ready to present those. It doesn't,
well, how are we gonna, discuss them if we
we
don't?
still have the June third
Well-
meeting.
So really, June 5th is the only dedicated time to talk about the budget specifically.
That's true, yeah. But June
So-
third is T-board.
I mean, it's, usually at this time, we're pretty close to having something so that we can have it at the beginning of June, right?
But this year is unique because we have a new state law and, we just recently got our
Yes.
tax digest. But everything else looks good. I support the fire department courts. Can you explain reduce capital of 700,000? Where's that come from?
Where'd it come from? Where'd it come from? It came from trying to take care of all these court needs and such that were presented to us as a way of doing that without using more fund balance. That's what it came from. And, there was a discussion with, I think, the manager's office about, and I think in what I shared with you, I had a note that talked about directing the manager's office to make adjustments to the capital budget as needed to make up for that 600.
150.
Yeah, right.
So we got a lot of capital needs in this community. So I would not want to reduce that at all.
So it'd be helpful to know what you would be willing to reduce. But you may have reasons to not talk.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay. You approved it in our April meeting. I would like to see a reduction in our neighborhood leaders. It's almost $2 million budget hit that we have planned on sending to grant funding or to alternative sources. Currently, I think there are 16 of them, with 2 administrators and 1 executive that we're paying for. They're doing phenomenal work. $2 million will save at least 0.3 in a mill rate increase. Or a restructuring of our neighborhood leaders to reduce the size of them, to save us some money and increase our budget. But that's open for discussion. I see people are upset, but
No,
I'm just.
I'm just.
So the neighborhood leaders cost the budget 1.2 million.
You want to?
Yeah, it's like 1,102,000.
I don't think that's a lot of bang for the buck. I mean, honestly, I turn to my neighborhood leaders, take care of a lot of on the ground stuff that I'm just not capable. Like we are an unstaffed commission. I feel like these are the boots on the ground that can handle, a lot of community needs, but you need someone like a neighborhood leader.
What did I say? That's like 2 million?
Yeah, you said 2 million, it's 1.2. And then, they're doing work and it deserves to be well paid,
Okay.
adequately compensated. And it's a lot of organization behind coordinating.
Would this commission be interested in going from 16 to maybe 7, 6?
Oh, that's a big cut.
That's cutting it in half, more than half.
Okay.
I mean, there might be a conversation to be had about, reducing, 1 or 2 or 3. I do realize there's some inequity of need in these districts that they work in. that might be a more in-depth conversation of restructuring. I think it might be a little late in the game for that.
Okay.
Anything else in terms of reductions, Patrick?
Um,
Perspective or more
Start the
solidified?
conversation.
no.
Melissa, any other?
I don't have anything else to add, I don't think.
I wonder if staff has anything just in terms of truing up some of these, some of these are very kind of definitive dollar amounts that have been vetted. I'll say I indicated to the commission, kind of when there was some interest in seeing pay parity between the police department, the sheriff's department, that we also had to consider the misdemeanor probation office. That's under the Superior Court judges, as well as the corrections office, that of course is under the manager. I threw out $400,000 as a placeholder, but I had no idea what the real number would have been.
So HR did look at that. And so since you sent that email, and I haven't put this over into your document yet, so apologies, but it will be there tonight. So if there's a desire for there to be parity between the pay grades between the public safety departments, we did provide some cost estimates. So including the sheriff's office, for the sheriff's office would be $376,735 dollars plus 30% for benefits. So a total for, and this is for incumbents and those, so people that are already working.
Yeah.
Not for their vacant positions. The total would be $489,755.
409?
489,755. For corrections, you're looking at $635,104. And then for probation, you're looking at $92,613 for a grand total of $1,217,472.
And 1.2 million, what number? Yeah,
Did you start at the beginning? The
Yeah.
first number was 489, 75 was,
489,755 for sheriff.
yeah.
$635,104 for corrections.
It's more.
$92,613 for probation. And that total is $1,217,472. And they've broken it out based on base pay plus the benefits, so you can see that.
I have a question. So industry standard, is there disparity in pay in these positions? I mean, they certainly have different roles. Can we hear a little bit about that?
I think there's generally parity in positions, is my experience.
So that is an industry standard that they tend to get.
Yes, I mean, I would say so. I can't say, across the country or anything. We could have maybe one of our vendors look at that
Okay.
and see if we can get a general answer. It won't be, kind of down perfectly, but
I've looked at a couple of Metro Atlanta, very large Metro Atlanta counties that have both the police department and the sheriff's department, and they have parity. That a larger coastal community that has one of each, and they have parity. I mean, very honestly, I think it's, it's a political response. And I think, as you know, Commissioner Lincoln, certainly as the public safety pay plan was constructed, the day-to-day, hour-by-hour tasks are different, and thus the pay was pegged to those tasks. But in terms of, no pun intended, keeping peace, I think most communities have just decided, hey, it's much more reasonable to have a equitable entry point.
That's good to know.
Do we have what the, what's the rate, what's the number we're talking about? Like how many positions, the percentage of empty positions in the sheriff, the correction and probation?
I believe we do, and I don't have it in front of me, but we can get that for you. We definitely have it.
I had a question just to help me with this. a very basic question for someone who knows this, for the question and answer, and I keep trying to find this thing. Could you talk to me about this? The CPA, where we find the exact number for how much money is going for the downtown events? Is that a line item in the budget? What page of the budget is that? I have not
CPE.
yet.
Community events. So there's, to keep things transparent, we have two community events programs.
Right, maybe that's what's confusing me.
Right.
C88, I don't have the PDF in front of me.
C,
C88. It's in the other general administrations.
So other than the downtown community events, other one is we're having an event at, Southeast-Clarke Park, right? Or Holland Park, or the one I thought was specific for just downtown, the other one's for other event. Is that correct?
So that is correct. There's the line item that is fund or kind of managed under the the Downtown Development Authority umbrella are for events that happen within their downtown footprint. So you all set aside hotel motel funding for that. It is then, they kind of do a grant solicitation for those events and it comes back to you as an agenda item, usually pretty early in the fiscal year. The other ones that you referenced, so if you look on C88, you'll see there's a line item for the fireworks show, since that's commonly out of downtown. And then within the capital budget, if you look at community events, there's another one that is specific to the cost of like holiday lighting.
okay, which one is it? What page is that on?
It is on
D29.
D29.
That's the holiday lighting. Okay. But then the one on C88, that's not coming from, what, that says, is that coming from the hotel?
Yeah, that's what it says.
On C88? Oh, yeah, I see that, right, that's what I thought. Okay. And so the fund, you also told me in what you put down here that their available funding is 93,000 in that fund.
That's hotel motel tax unspent. Is that correct?
Yes. Let's see. The current estimated fund balance is 93,000, yes.
Okay. So make an adjustment there, okay.
That's found on E8.
Can I ask some questions on the question and answers? Of course. Yeah, so on that, on page, this was tied in with the homeless before, on page, I think it's 5-6. It talks about the federal funding cuts.
So that needs to be updated because at this point, we have received notification
From,
in regards to CDBG and home that both our awards, and in fact, our awards have gone up. It was
Right.
covered in the last continuing resolution.
it just went up a very small,
It did. It was modest, but
it went up.
they go up.
But I was on the back page of that, it says continuum of care planning, homeless housing. Is that from? Are those from ARPA funds?
No, Continuum of Care is another federal program that is similar to home or CDBG. In our case, we are, forget the exact term, we're basically a facilitator. So that line item you see with the 50,000 is more or less the administrative cost that Athens-Clarke County takes to plan for that grant.
Right.
And what happens is the COC, which is not the exact same thing as the Homeless Coalition, but there's a lot of overlap.
Right.
They do a selection process to recommend where federal funds would go for different types of supportive and diversionary type housing.
And that funding is very, I mean, the future of that funding is unclear from stuff I read today.
But for the current fiscal
Right,
year,
right, right.
COC dollars continued just as the CDBG and HOME dollars were.
I think we need to check, because I don't know that we've explicitly heard on CSC. They run different timelines because of this idea that you have to submit forward-looking. But we can certainly capture that in Q&A and follow up.
Then on page 9, I don't really have that many questions. It's like this. So our lost taxes have gone down. So does that mean that the money coming in on T-Splost probably has gone down as well?
It's just not coming in as
It's
fast.
not coming in as fast, right? Yeah, we're slowing down on that. But then when it talks about the building inspection fund, this is also on 9, and it says the addition of the fire marshal position is already being funded from the building inspection fund. What are other positions that can be, that's not code enforcement can't be included in?
They've got to be positions that are directly associated with permitting and inspections.
Okay,
And that's why we were able to do that. There's actually funding that also goes into planning right now that has for several years to fund the individuals in the planning department that administer the intake for development review, plan review. Any of those that are directly related to that can be funded, but we can't go any further than that.
okay. So that, I mean, that's a lot of fund balance for that.
But that was something that we looked at, Commissioner Myers, when we
Yeah.
were starting to look at budget requests, is what positions were being requested that could have been funded through that fund, which is why that fire marshal was recommended. to be funded.
Because it's equivalent to about it's a full-time position between what will be 2 in fire marshals that will assist in the plan review process. So we were able to do both the position and the vehicle out of that.
And if I remember, we also positioned that budget to operate as a deficit this year, effectively working down their fund balance. Yeah.
Yep.
Similar as we might be with.
I have one other thing that I have a question, and my computer wants to completely update now, and I left my budget book at home. But in that CDO last year, I was remembering that we had, and that, which I can't pull up now, that we put a lot of fund balance into capital projects. Does anyone have that, just as a reminder of how much money we did put in?
Put in for a fire truck.
We did, it's about.
Yeah, but there was other stuff.
There was,
Was it somewhere in the ballpark of 10 million?
Was 13 million.
For capital, right, and because I just wanna, I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion that comes up about, oh, we use the fund balance and we're not, I hear stuff in the public about we're using money for social services and such, and that's why we're going down on the fund balance, but in reality, we spent a lot of the fund balance last year on capital projects.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's important to share, remind ourselves, remind the public.
12,557,800.
how much was that fire truck?
Well, that's not included in this. The fire truck was funded
That was separate.
in 24. It was 3 million.
Yeah. So that just a reminder, like when we're, I guess, all our colleagues do on that. I don't have any more questions, do you? So
5 million to cap.
I'm just gonna ask the mayor again, could we review this again when the next time we'll be coming together as a group to discuss the budget?
So while June 3rd is a taxpayer bill of rights hearing date, that's also a voting meeting date. So it's not intended for sort of general evolution of the budget, but there is a budget specific meeting on June 5th.
Obviously, we're gonna have to get a lot done that day.
Yeah.
That's a Thursday. That's correct. And then budget approval Tuesday, June 10th.
That 5th is at City Hall.
That's
It's at City Hall.
Yeah, all of the rest of these are at City Hall. I think there's some conflicts with planning commission nights.
Is that at 5:30?
I think they're all sick.
The 5th will be a planning commission meeting here, so.
So.
So we will see at least all of you there. Anything else before we let everybody take leave for the evening? Right.
Does staff got anything?
Just Steph have anything?
I did have one question, actually, if you don't mind. Your Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful funding for the 8,000. Is it possible to give a little bit more information on what that specifically would fund?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be now. It could be late.
I'll get back to you.
It's all good. I was just gonna give Suki a heads up.
Similarly, if you do put funding in the Affordable Housing Special Revenue Fund, you might want to consider if it's just generally in the fund and available for any future purpose that you intend, or if you intend to do like you did last year and designate it. So last year it was spread between LIHTC gap financing, I think single family affordability, and one other, I'm sorry, I forget it right now.
Could it be unrestricted general for affordable housing? That is such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could just be a transfer into the fund, and then again, nothing, the use of those funds requires your authorization, so.
And just on that again, to make sure that we have this, we have something planned, the mayor shared the other day for the work session in August on affordable housing. At that point, are we going to, do you think we will have some movement forward on options? I mean, if we had, I mean, I know that some of the, I've heard informally that some of the programs that are working with house renovation to help them, you know, people stay in their homes and keep the houses working, that those programs are working well. And would we have information about that? You know, maybe there'd be recommendations from you all about actually moving forward and spending some of the money at that point. I mean, do you all anticipate anything that's going to happen at that August meeting?
Judd's been working on this some.
Oh, Judge.
Yeah, and HCD staff. I mean, in my opinion, I think my understanding, we're talking about the Housing Trust Fund and how that works. That's what's been being worked on.
And we certainly, I know, get an update on those already allocated funds.
You know, one final question, CPE funds downtown, your budget is asking for a $56,000 increase? 93,000 plus 150,000.
No, well, I think they're telling me there's only 93. I put 150 coming from that and there's really only 93,000, so that would be adjusted. Something has to be adjusted.
And there's $250,000 that in my draft I've allocated to that program, which maintains last year's
Right.
higher than ever level.
So,
So you want an additional?
right, you know, in responding to get us a little closer to comparable cities because of the we have an email from right, from the group of people. There's a lot of people on that list.
Can staff give us, I don't know much about their event planning. Where is that money going to? Is that for the police? Is it for the stage? Is it for food, beverage, lights, entertainment?
Are you talking about once those awards are made?
Yeah. How that spent?
So that's through ADVA. What I would like to do is ask them formally. They provide documentation to us of the payments being made, and then we offer a reimbursement, but I think they probably.
I agree.
need to-
They charge, if there are, streets are closed, there are charges, I think, based on parking fees that are lost.
Sure, I mean, on the event permitting side, there's cost recovery for a whole host of things, parking being one. If there extra security through police is needed,
Solid waste.
general electricity, so we have a number of places around town where you can get electricity, the stage and other supplemental like the pedestrian barriers.
But I like that idea of getting kind of past activity cost sheets.
Right.
The
Yeah.
commission could see,
Yep.
hey, here's what that looks like line item by line item.
Well, y'all enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you.
Turn off your phones. We motion to adjourn? Does anybody else got anything? I'm just clocking out.
Yeah,
All right, everybody, please have a beautiful night. Thank you for your hard work.